So, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. In Italy now it's 7 o'clock in the evening. Okay, there is one waiting. Okay. In Italy now it's 7 o'clock in the evening. I understand now it's in Georgia it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So nice to meet you. So it's my general custom that 90% of what I present, of the lessons I present, are usually based on my guru's writings, and today is no exception. And you know, Mr. Davis wrote extensively for almost 60 years, so I always take advantage of his writings to get inspirations for my lessons. And it's also my habit to use slides. And so I understand you will see my face very small in the right. You don't see me full screen. But I know you are not missing much. So basically, if you see the slides, it's much better. Okay. I sometimes use stories to explain concepts, and during this short lecture, I will be talking about how to get beneficial results by following the spiritual path, in my opinion, in the right way. I had already presented this lesson in 2014 at the European Kriya Yoga Congress in Italy, but in that occasion, I had just about 20-25 minutes to speak, so basically the lesson was very condensed in some way. So a few months ago, I decided to extend the lesson. There are 47 slides. They will go fast, but there are 47 slides. It's a little bit longer. So I revised the lesson and I expanded it. And this is a new extended version. I hope you will like it and you will understand it, okay? You know, English is not my first language, so basically I have a macaronic accent, so I hope you will understand all that I have to say. Now, sometimes people, they ask me why following a spiritual path is so important. I occasionally, and maybe not so occasionally, I receive mails from many people all around Italy, sometimes also from the United States. And they ask me, they see my posts on Facebook. And so they ask me why, in my opinion, a spiritual path in life is so important. And so I would like to answer this question by introducing some teachings of my guru, of Mr. Davis. And in order to do that, I'm using a story. And now let's see the story together, okay? So this lesson is bilingual because I presented it also in Italy. So the slides are in two languages, in Italian and in English. So I'll tell you a story to explain that. Once upon a long ago, there was a king who had 4 wives. This man, let's call him the King John Doe, had 4 wives. Now, you know, somebody could argue that he was a lucky man. Somebody who is already married may think otherwise. Pascal is laughing, then you will explain me why. And so there was this king and he had 4 wives. So let's take a look at his wives. The 4th wife was the one he loved the most, and he took incredible care of her. He took care of her all the time, basically. Only when he slept, he was not aware of that woman. But when he was physically awake, all his attention went to her. He took care of her needs all the time, all the time. To him, he was obviously the most important wife. Then he had also a 3rd wife, and it was a very strange relationship. Also, this wife was incredibly important to him. He took care of her every day. There was, in any case, a persistent problem in their relationship. He was quite afraid that his 3rd wife could leave him any moment and go somewhere else with somebody else. You know, in Italy, we say that jealousy is a bad beast, you know. So keep in mind this fact. He was afraid that his third wife could leave him in any moment and go with somebody else. That's the important part. That's the important part to remember. Also, there was a second wife. He did not care of her as much as he did for the fourth and the third wife, but she was important anyway. He used to tell that lady all his problems. He talked to the lady very much. And she was his confidant and his consoler. So he used to spend some time with her once in a while. She was important, not as much as the others, but she was important. Then the guy had also a first wife. At the bottom of his personal order of importance, the king had also a first wife. She called for attention all the time. But for one reason or for another, he neglected her most of the time. He barely remembered she existed. And she suffered a little bit for that. You know, this strange and peculiar relationship went on for years, more or less in the same way, until one day the king, John Doe, fell seriously ill. Now he realized that his time on earth was about to end. You know, many of us probably sooner or later will have that day to face, because sometimes you go away unexpectedly, but sometimes you may realize when your time is almost over. So, with this sad thought in his mind, the guy reasoned for a while, and he had an idea, not so brilliant one. He thought, I loved very much my wife, at least 3 out of 4. So maybe they will come to me, they will come with me to the afterlife. So he decided to approach all of them and ask his wives this question: will you follow me to the afterlife? Yes or no? So he started with the fourth wife. And he said, will you come to me, will you come with me in the afterlife, to the afterlife? And, sorry, there is somebody who wants to enter. Okay. Will you follow me to the afterlife? And unfortunately, forget it was the answer. I really can't do that. So the poor king was very saddened, and he decided to go to the third wife, asking the same question. The lady laughed at him, very brazenly, I could say, and she said, I'm sorry, I can come with you, and when you are gone, I will immediately go with somebody else. Useless to say, Mr. King John Doe was very sad and very frightened. So, quite dismayed, he decided to go to his second wife. And he said, you have always been there for me, and I spent quite some time with you. Will you come to me to the afterlife? And she said, I'm sorry, my dear, I can't do that. I will come to your funeral if you want, and I can pray for you. But because I love you very much, but sorry, I really can't do more than that. The king, at that point, was totally desperate. he had a problem. Something happened that he did not expect. So, when everything seemed to be lost, sorry, I forgot to, when everything seemed to be lost, the naive man heard a voice which said in a very sweet way, "Do not be desperate, my good boy. I'm here for you. I will follow you everywhere because, you know, basically I can't do otherwise. Even if you forget about me all the time." So the king at that point was really dismayed. And he said, "I release now my huge mistake. I should have taken more care of you. I have been very stupid all my life. So please pardon me." Now, there is a deep teaching in this story. There are metaphors at stake here. Each of us has 4 wives. The 4th wife is the body. The 3rd wife represents wealth and social status. The 2nd wife represents family and friends. And the first wife is our pure essence of being, which stays with us all the time, even if we neglect it. So, you know, our body undergoes decay, and at the end, it disappears into nothingness. And it is the one which gets the most attention. Wealth and status, when we die, they go to others. You know, when we have left this world, our status can only be remembered by someone, and our properties will immediately go to somebody else just after our demise. That's a fact. Then family and friends can love and support us, but they cannot come with us when we die. Only our essence of being remains always the same and stays with us all the time. This wife, as she said in the story, cannot do any differently. She stays with us basically because she is us. That's a fact. So, if we want to understand what we really are, and I say what and not who, because Mr. Davis said always that if you concentrate on who, you may run the risk to be too much concentrated on your sense of personality. So if you want to understand what we really are, we have to take care of the first wife as much as possible, not only randomly, but constantly. We have to do that every day. You know, that's funny. Many people over the years, even in my presence, when I was visiting CSA, I heard them ask Mr. Davis what happens after death. And I heard more than once him say, if you want to be aware after your departure from this world, you have to do your best to be aware before that. So, if you are familiar, let's say goodbye to this slide. Okay, if you are familiar to the teachings of our spiritual path, you know that we explain in a very general sense, in a very general way, that in the deepest part of his being, each of us is an individualized unit of an ultimate reality, which conventionally we call God. So basically, in order to realize that, and when I say realize, I mean to have a direct experience along with accurate knowledge. And this is the definition that usually Mr. Davis said to people. We have to walk along a path, the spiritual path, which is quite normal. Now, I would like to stress a little bit the concept of I made a mistake. And to highlight the concept of realization. Many people in many spiritual paths, they are satisfied and they are happy to be believers. Okay, we go to the church every week, we pray, we believe in God, and so on. I don't want to be arrogant, but what we have been taught by people like Paramahansa Yogananda and people like Mr. Davis is the concept of realization, self-realization, which is something a little bit different than a simple belief. You know, Yogananda say belief is something provisional, is something that may change over time. Realization is an experience. It's something different. So Yogananda made the example of the orange in order to explain the concept of self-realization. He said, imagine to have an orange in front of you like this one, and in order to realize what an orange is, you have to eat it at least once. You have to try, you have to taste it, okay? If you have never eaten an orange, you know nothing about an orange. You may have theories about it, as you have theories about God. Only by eating an orange, you may know what an orange is. So the same thing happens related to religion. Some people, as I said before, they are happy to be believers and they accumulate theoretical knowledge. You know, that's funny. Well, not so much, to be sincere. All over the years, in the last centuries, many people killed each other simply based on their religious beliefs, not realization, belief, okay? I happened to meet a person a few years ago. He lived in Russia, and he explained me a few things about Russian history I knew nothing about. There were wars between Orthodox people simply because one group used to do the sign of the cross in a certain way, and the other one used to do the sign of the cross in a different way, and they killed each other for that. Now, I don't want to criticize, but I want to point out the fact that we have to try to go over that, okay? I suggest, honestly, we should pay little interest to theoretical knowledge. I see, okay, that can be important up to a certain point, but just up to a certain point, in my opinion. And I think people should prefer to fall consciously into the depths of meditation. In my opinion, this is the best way to follow. So I wanted to point out this. Our spiritual path is not a path of belief, it's a path of realization. I understand that at the beginning we may have some belief because belief will support us in some way, but belief must change over time. If after a few years of practice you still think about things in the same way, check your pulse, because you might be dead that you don't know, okay? It's a joke, but I'm kidding seriously. Let's put it this way. Now, recently, I have found in a book of Mr. Davis, I translated into Italian many of Mr. Davis' book, and I have a personal collection about all the books that he wrote from the early 60s on. And in one of them, I found, I don't remember which one, I found this sentence, which is very inspiring. It may open your eyes in some way. And it says, because of delusions and restrictive mental impressions acquired in present and former incarnation, The average person is unable to understand the nature of God, much less experience self-realization. Really, this cannot happen if you don't follow seriously a spiritual path. Yeah, maybe it may happen, but I have never met anybody enlightened who didn't do some form or some sort of practice. Okay? So, because of this, I really think that following seriously a spiritual path is of the utmost importance. In my opinion, the main features of a serious spiritual path are four. We have self-discipline, we have meditation practice, we have surrendering to God, and we have study of higher realities. How this suggested by the Yoga Sutra and by Mr. Davis usually. Okay? So, about self-discipline, this is what my guru had to say. As our often uncontrolled drive to be too externalized accompanies delusion and restlessness, we are encouraged to train sensory impulses by self-disciplined behaviors. This is to be done in relationship to urges, thoughts, attitudes, feelings, other people, and our environment. Now I remember the book, probably is Life Surrendered in God, which is the commentary on the Yoga Sutra that he did before the Science of Self-Realization. I'm not 100% sure because I took this stuff from the book quite a few months ago, but I think it is so. Okay, in a few words, my opinion is simply pay very close attention to what you do and how you do it, and do your best to live an orderly life. This is my understanding of this part. About meditation practice, this is another sentence of inspiration from Mr. Davis' writings. Proper meditation practice allows us to develop an active emptiness in the mind, and when this occurs, superconscious influences gradually invade the mental plane by purifying it. When the mental plane has been purified, it can progressively process higher state of consciousness. I don't remember where I got this, but it was in one of his magazines. I don't know when. I don't know which one. And I have to say this. This is my opinion about this. If you read the Truth Journal, Kathleen and Ron last month were kind enough to publish small articles, short articles of mine, which was an answer to a question that a woman had asked me a few months before. And this question is quite normal because many people ask me the same things. Sometimes people are obsessed with meditation techniques. And they think that in order to meditate correctly, they have to do many things. They have to do, even more do. No, that's not the case. At least my experience is different. And meditation is a listening process. When I meditate, this is very personal. I see. When I finish my meditation techniques, I usually sit still. I close my eyes, and I simply think, God speak. Your disciple is listening, and the disciple is me in that moment. I shut up. I don't do things anymore. I try just not to do anything. I'm quite alert. I try to be alert, but my mind, when I get distracted, when I get restless, repeats again this sentence: God speaks. God speak. Your disciple is listening. I try to shut up my mind that way. I do all the techniques before, like Ongso, like Om technique, Kriya Pranayama, and everything. But basically, when is the moment to stay still, that's the moment to stay still. So I don't do techniques anymore. You know, many people, they ask me, oh, Mr. A teaches meditation this way, Mr. B teaches meditation the other way, and so on. Meditation is not doing techniques. Techniques are tools. You use tools to reach a meditative state. When you have reached a meditative state, you take the tool and you put it aside. That's what has to do. That's my opinion, obviously. Okay? So people sometimes, they are obsessed with techniques, and they really, in my opinion, they shouldn't be. And in a very old book of his, it was the Studies in Truth of the 70s, I found a very nice sentence written by Mr. Davis, which simply states, I hope you are meditating regularly, because meditation is the fundament of spiritual practice. I think there is no better sentence than this to explain the importance of the practice. Our spiritual path is not a theoretical path. Is a part of practice. Okay, so if you want to grow, my opinion, practice. Let's go on. Just a second, I lost. Okay. Surrendering to God. Many people ask me how we can do that and what it means. Okay, Mr. Davis had to say this, and then I will tell you my personal opinion about this. Surrender of the illusional sense of self-identity to God is accomplished by nurturing devotion to the ideal of being self and God realized that culminates in transcendence and ego consciousness. Attention and awareness are then unified with supreme consciousness. So basically, this is my understanding. This is my personal opinion. Accept the fact that you have to transcend ego consciousness. But I realized this over time. You cannot force this process to happen. It happens spontaneously over time when you allow this to happen and you do regularly your practices. I repeat the concept. You cannot force it to happen. It's not a matter of will, okay? You can only prepare for it to happen by meditating regularly and by living the best possible life, a very orderly and tidy life. That's my understanding. And sometimes when I had sudden realizations or understanding of some kind, it often happened when I was not meditating and I was not doing anything in order to make it happen. It just happened. And it happened because probably I had worked before, because it was the right time. I prepared myself by doing what I was suggested by my guru to do, but I couldn't force it to happen. That's why sometimes I noticed that an exasperate technicism in yoga is basically, in my opinion, useless. Last but not least, okay, this is only Italian, so you don't understand it, and this is only English. When we talk about the study of higher realities, this is what my guru had to say. Insightful study of higher realities provides knowledge of our true nature, the reality of God and cosmic processes. Also, knowledge of the laws of cause and effect that determine events and circumstances in the mundane realm should be acquired. I think also that when we manage to reach deep state of meditation, we can observe the inner workings of the mind and inner workings of consciousness. And in my opinion, that is also a deeper kind of metaphysical study. But even, you know, there are basically two ways of studying higher realities. So studying books and listening to lectures gives you a basic kind of understanding, which in any case might have its importance. Practicing deep meditation gives you, in my opinion, another kind of understanding, and we should do our best to do both things well. Okay? Now, having an experiential understanding obviously means to experience the highest possible growth. It means to become knowers, and as I said before, not be satisfied by simply being believers. Okay? Okay. I have to say something. Over the years, I have noticed that by concentrating deeply my study of my guru's books only, with a few exceptions here and there, has given me the ability to have some of his intuitions. I realized that when I was not physically close to him, sometimes, especially when he answered my mails, I had an insight about what he meant when he explained to me a few things. And that happened because for years, and I'm not kidding, for maybe 20 years, basically I read only his books. And I start thinking like him. Because I said to myself, this man is enlightened, so this man can teach me something. And I felt a deep connection. And I admit that translating his books was useful because it was mainly made for other people. But I admit that I was the one who took the most by doing a work of that kind. And I have, as a person, I have a minimalistic approach, and basically Mr. Davis' writings for me have always been enough. I understand we are not the same, everybody is different, you know. And as a CA minister, as a minister ordained by him, I always consider that representing that kind of teachings and passing his teachings to future generations as faithfully as possible as a spiritual duty. I think that I received the best which could be available on the market. Okay, I say joking, but and so I always felt compelled to do my best to do the same without adding, you know, lots of Indian mumbo jumbo. I'm not saying that this is wrong. No, I'm just saying that I don't like doing that. Okay. The basis of the spiritual path, as I said before, is to look for realization. So it is through realization that we understand things and we grow. Let's try to become knowers, not only believers. Look for direct experience, desire experience, yearn for experience, expect experience. Mr. Davis, in the 70s, he happened to meet a New Thought minister who was very active in the San Diego area in the 70s and the 80s. And he had one of his books in the library at CSA, and he suggested me to take a look, especially to one sentence of that book, not to the book in general, but to one specific sentence. That's the sentence. What you can believe in, accept for yourself, and expect with absolute certainty is destined to become a real experience in your life. So sometimes people, they're funny because they ask me, Fulvio, but honestly, I start meditating today, I start following a spiritual path, I start doing everything you tell me to do. Do I really have a possibility to become enlightened in this incarnation? Can I really do that? Do you think I really can do that? And when people ask me that funny question, I always give them this sentence: what you can believe in, what you can accept for yourself, and what you can expect with absolute certainty is destined to become a real experience in your life. So basically, if you are not the first one who believes in that possibility, you really can't do that. But one time, Mr. Davis told me, maybe not everybody who start the spiritual path may reach the full end in a lifetime. But remember this, Furio, he told me very clearly, if you believe that you can, you will go much more ahead compared to people who believe otherwise. Do you understand what I think, what I say? I mean, believe that it is possible. If you believe that it is possible, you may have much better results, many more results that you can imagine. That's my personal opinion. From Mr. Davis' teachings, I have learned a lot in my life through repetition. About 1 week ago, a woman asked me a question, and she said, when I read the stuff of your master and also what you write, I noticed that there is a repetition of concepts, of the same concepts over and over again. Does it make sense? Because I would like to learn something new once in a while. And so there is another story for you. There was a guy, once upon a long ago, there was a guy, very young guy, who entered an ashram, and he approached the guru of that ashram. And then he said, sir, I'm here because I want self-realization. And can you teach me how to be self-realized? And the guru said, okay, you can stay here for a while. And he gave him some paper to study. And he said, concentrate on these papers and start studying them. So the guy took the papers and he started studying. So after a couple of days, he got bored with those things. So he approached the guru again and he said, sir, I studied the 2 pages that you gave me. Can I have something else now? He said, and the guru said, no, you have to study that. So just keep that and go on studying. So the guy was not very happy, but he did what he was told to do. And then he went on studying again those papers. After 2 days, he got restless again. And then he went to the guru again and said, sir, I've been studying those 2 pages for 4 days. Now I think I know enough, and you can tell me, you can give me some other stuff to study. And the guru said, no, but I want you to do something for me. And he gave the guy 2 vases. One was intact, okay, very clean. The other one was very dirty inside, and he had a big hole at the bottom, like the vase on the picture. And the guru said to the guy, he said, now every morning, please go to the river and fill both vases with water. So the guy replied, sir, I can fill one of them because it is intact, but I cannot fill the other one because there is a big hole. And so as soon as I move, the water will go away. And the guru said, there is a sense in what I'm making you do, so please do as I ask. So the morning after, the guy with the 2 vases, he went to the river, he filled them. Obviously, the first vase reached its destination intact, full of water. The other vase, instead, was empty. So when he went to the Guru, he said, "Sir, one of them is obviously empty." And the Guru said, "No problem. Tomorrow morning and for all the rest of the week, that will be your spiritual practice. You go to the river, you fill both vases, and you come back to me with them." And so the guy was a little bit perplexed, but he went there and he decided to do as he was told. Obviously, every time he went to his Guru in the morning after filling the vases, one of them was full and one of them was completely empty. This went on for all the week. On Sunday morning, the guy exploded and he said to his Guru, "Sir, what you are making me do does not make any sense, because this vase has a big hole at the bottom, so I will never be able to bring you water." And the Guru replied, "But this was not important. If you remember, last week on Monday, when I gave you this vase with a big hole in it, inside it was very dirty, because as it had an hole in it, it had never been used for a long time, so it was very dirty. Now, by filling it with water every day, it's perfectly clean." And the same thing happens in your mind when you read things over and over again. Sometimes, I've been studying Mr. Davis' books for 25 years. I got a lot of teachings from that. And I'm still getting those teachings every day, because what was given to me was something totally priceless. So it took me sometimes 20 years to understand things that even only 2 or 3 years ago I was not able to grasp. And that happened because the mind takes time to understand things. So when people they get me with question, "Oh, why don't you teach about Atlantis, crop circles, or something like that?" I say, because it's not spiritually useful. You learn by repetition. That's how it works. We don't have much time to spend in this world. Days, weeks, months, and years go away fast, as it happened to the naive king, whose experience I described at the beginning of this lesson. We can be aware of the fact that our life, as Joe Solomon Goldsmith used to say, he wrote a book with this title, is a parenthesis in eternity. But we can be aware of who and what we are, and of who and what we can do only in the present moment. So because of this, my suggestion is to get busy, start working seriously if you have never done it before, or go on working seriously if you have been on the spiritual path for a while. In my opinion, focus is the key. Focus is the key. I would like to end this talk with 3 inspiring sentences. One is by Paramahansa Yogananda, who said, "If you practice Kriya Yoga till the end of your life, you will find the highway to the infinite, and you will know that God can be realized. The second one is a sentence that Mr. Davis wrote in a old book of his. This is Italian, you can't read it, and this is the English. I suggest you take a picture, especially in a moments of distress, and you keep it just upon your, close to your bed, so you can read it every day at bedtime. Sorry, I need water. This is the sentence. Concentrated desire to know God is the most powerful aid to realization. Yearning to know God results in the unfoldment of latent capacities and the movement of inner grace, which facilitates psychological and physical transformation. Helpful circumstances are attracted to the devotee who sincerely desires to know God. Such surrendered soul cry moves the universe to the extent that fine cosmic forces are called into involvement with the devotee's personal endeavors. I don't think there is much to comment. The universe and grace help you when you are, that's my personal experience. Everybody may pass through periods of distress in life, but you know, Yogananda used to say, when you are in distress, love God more, which could seems to be a very simplistic thing to do, but I assure you that is the truth, is the full truth. When you are in distress, and God is your main goal in life, the universe conspires in order to put you out of trouble. It may seem naive, but I assure you by experience that it is not. It is simply the truth. But in order to make it work this for you, you have to be sincere and you have to put God first, as a priority, I mean, in your life. When you do that, the universe conspires to help you. And I really think that, because I had evidences all the time of this. The last sentence is an extract from a poem by Lahiri Mashaya that I really like very much. The original is much longer, but this is condensed in 4 or 5 sentences that I really like very much. And it says, my worship is of a very strange kind. In this Ganga, there is no need of water. There is no need of specific tools. Even flowers are redundant. In this puja, all gods have disappeared, and emptiness has emerged with euphoria. In my opinion, this is a hymn to the simplicity and minimalism of Kriya spiritual practice. That's all. Thank you.